Hi class, this is our discussion 7 vlog over chapters 5 and 6 in our Robert Dickson book, and we are discussing analyzing and institutional priorities, and this week's readings with chapter 5 focused on the 10 criterion that you look at when prioritizing and selecting the appropriate criteria in prioritizing programs and services. And I thought this was interesting because it's pretty straightforward. I found it relevant, and I guess I find it relevant because at this time my college has merged with another college, so we just went through a merger 2 weeks ago, and we did a lot of prioritizing programs and looking at what program, and this is academic wise, but what programs were relevant, and I could really resonate with several key criterion points that were brought up and how those play into prioritizing your programs, what's working, what's not working, and where you can trim the fat, so to speak. And it's funny because they touch on in chapter 5 about how one program may work at another college, but your culture may be different at your college, and so you do not need to benchmark when prioritizing programs necessarily. You need, because you're looking within your own institution at what programs are working. So that was interesting. So our first question in our discussion 7 was in relation to, does your institution or previous institution rely on part-time faculty more than full-time faculty? Provide examples of both positive and negative impacts that over-reliance of part-time faculty has on institutions. Well, this is interesting because this has definitely been a topic of discussion before, and recently within the past year. My institution definitely relies heavily, I would say, on part-time and adjunct faculties. They have been used for being able to fill a class or satisfy the need of a class when we only have enough for one course, one section, possibly 2 sections, but not enough to sustain a full-time employee. So, and that's really where it goes into the program, looking at the revenue it brings in, the amount of students in the course, enrollment numbers. It all goes into looking at that program. But the part-time faculty, it's been interesting the last year or 2 years to see how many adjunct and part-time faculty we have acquired and sought. And a lot of this is, well, there's several reasons I think that we have more an increase in part-time faculty. Like I said, we have an interest, or we have programs that we're either beginning to build, and they just have not flourished. The numbers are not that great yet. Or we could possibly have a program that has flourished and we need to add possibly a full-time in a few more segments or courses in that area, and so, but not quite a full-time instructor. So, you know, like I said, there's several reasons for part-time instructors. I think also we've had something that's had an effect on our part-time faculty is the healthcare law that came out or went to effect last year, the ACA. It was part of the healthcare, and basically adjuncts or part-time faculty could not work over so many hours at the college, could not instruct, or however the hours were calculated, they could not go over 29, well, at my institution it was 29 credit hours of teaching, and whether, you know, different things factor into that. But if they did go over the 29 credit hours, then as an institution you had to offer them insurance, as well as if you went over that 29 hours and you did not offer them insurance, as a full-time employee or faculty member would have, then you would be fined, as not just as the institution, but as your system, your college system as a whole. So whether it be USG or TCSG in Georgia, but you'll be fined as a whole. So it's not a good thing. So what I've seen it have an effect on is it's really limiting the adjunct faculty. It's basically putting a cap on the hours that they can teach. Yes, I think the intent was to try and hire more full-time, but once again, looking at your resources and your revenue and your it's a balancing act, and so every adjunct and part-time faculty could not be hired, and so that has some hours being cut back. So to me, it seems like it's had more of a backfire effect. Instead of helping some of the part-time adjunct faculty, it's actually indeed hurt them in their hours and being able to talk. So there's two sides to every story, I guess. Some of the cons is for part-time faculty is obviously less office time. A lot of discussions have been said. There's less accessibility most of the time, less face time with students. Also, there's less time for the student or the part-time faculty to have development and any kind of training or pertinent to their program, or you know, any development training type. So, and also it seems, not all the time, but sometimes it seems like you have less buy-in to the program because you know, unless you have that specific instructor that does not want anything full-time and does not need a full-time job, usually it's a stepping stone until a part-time faculty member can find something full-time. So there's less buy-in from the faculty, and less acceptance on the full-time faculty accepting the part-time faculty. Those are the cons. The pros are you have more class options and the times that they can be offered with adjunct faculty. So the scheduling is a little bit more flexible. And then in my experience in my institution, a lot of times the adjunct faculty, they're coming more from industry, and this is obviously not the credit, but the more technical programs and the hands-on programs. But you have more instructors that are coming from the industry and business side. So they bring a different skill set and different knowledge sometimes, different backgrounds, which can be beneficial. So those are the pros and cons. As far, just real quickly, as touching on the student subsidies and how they are at my institution, we do not have a high student subsidy to where the student typically in my institution does not pay, they do not usually pay as much out of pocket. We have a lot more financial aid that's available to our students. So, and I know the book mentions schools with big student subsidies have better trained faculty, better buildings most of the time. So that's a little bit about my institution. So that is my vlog for discussion 7. Thanks.